You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. So it begins again. Welcome back to the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 146.
Season 4, Bigfoot Howl, Exorcist Curse, Dinosaurs in Texas, and Where Have We Been?
Yeah.
Load it.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
So here we are again with the old CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 146. What makes this one different is this is the beginning of our season 4.
Yep.
That's right. So we've been gone for a minute doing lots of things that we're going to talk about in this podcast. But if this is your very first time tuning into this podcast is all about what?
The CreepGeeks Podcast is an offbeat news podcast that takes a lighthearted approach to the paranormal, cryptid, strange, the silly, and trending tech topics circulating the web. Broadcasting paranormal news and fun stories from our underground bunker in the mountains of western North Carolina.
That is correct. And we have a couple different ways for you to support the podcast. If you'd like to support the podcast by telling us a story or maybe sharing something that you've experienced.
Or a lead.
Yeah. Yeah, a lead would be nice this time of year. But anyway, if you have something you'd like to share with us, you can certainly do that. We have a toll-free number provided for your convenience for you to go ahead and leave us a message on the show.
Yes, that phone number is 575-208-4025.
That's right. You can call and leave us a message. We also have a website called CreepGeeks.com. We have a contact form there that we just figured out doesn't work, but we fixed it, where you can basically click
Again.
Yeah. It's weird. It's a thing. And you can basically click that form and fill it out for us and leave us all sorts of wonderful information about some stories you may or may not have experienced. Yeah.
Yep.
That's our disclaimer. If you'd like to remain anonymous, you can certainly do that as well. We also have a Facebook group where you can go and interact and mingle with other like-minded people. And that is
CreepGeeks Facebook group.
pretty hard to get. CreepGeeks Facebook group. If you type that into the old do-wadgy, it'll come right up there.
Browser.
And the browser. And we also have a Instagram page that you can follow. And we have links to all of these social media presences and stuff on our website and Facebook and everything like that. And this podcast is available for listening to other fine quality podcast playing programs and places and locations such as iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, SoundCloud. Am I missing any?
Apple Podcasts, Google
Apple
Play Podcasts.
Google Play Podcasts, all sorts of places like that. It's wonderful. The season kind of goes like this. It starts with season 4. This is our episode number 146. We're going to talk about Bigfoot Howl, Exorcist Curse, right? Dinosaurs in Texas and where we've actually been, and some of the friends of the podcast that we've made. And then our episode 147 on through starts our 4-part series.
Mm-hmm.
And then if this is your very first time tuning in the podcast, I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And we host the CreepGeeks Podcast.
Yeah.
And we normally have a third wheel, if you will, our manager, Pepper, who is our paranormal puppy dog, who is sitting in the chair right now overseeing our current operation.
Yes.
And by overseeing, she's got her back turned to us because she's embarrassed probably. So,
because it's 11 o'clock at night.
You know, it's late. And we do this when we can. And we have no excuse, or I have no excuse for not putting together a podcast. But, you know, it's like every weekend we've been doing stuff. And we've been actually on the road in our Albino Rhino, our simple DIY camper van, our investigation machine, our van. Well,
I was expecting more of a dramatic finish to that.
It is a super sweet van, but no. So anyway, if you want to support the podcast, you know, call, leave us some content if you will. Make sure to put it on, and we do try to share as much as we can. You can do it on Facebook as well. And if you want to support the podcast in the easy way, if you buy anything off Amazon, if you use our affiliate link, we get a small percentage. That link is in the show notes, where everything we talk about on the podcast is in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
All the links are there for you to peruse at your leisure. So if you go to CreepGeeks.com, you'll see it right there. And you can kind of click and do more research if you want. It's kind of up to you. So, yeah. So there's that. So anyway, that was a long rambling intro to get to one of my favorite things to talk about, our interesting random factoid.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way the interesting random factoid is that we find interesting random factoids, little small snippets of fact, and we try to put them on here and talk about them. Yeah. And this one is concerning my favorite movie of all time, which has scared I'm pretty old. So this movie came out in the 70s, and it was a super scary movie. It was called The Exorcist. And it had Linda Blair in it, and a bunch of other famous people I don't remember. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that movie made a lot of stir in the movie theater. People were passing out and talking all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, I couldn't watch it. Because I guess in the 70s we were weak. I'm just saying. But I mean, it was about exorcism, right? And, you know, and this is like something that when I was a little kid sort of freaked me out, because this was not just like, you know, okay, so we had Jaws, which really scared me when I was a little kid because we grew up in the beach, right? So we used to go to the beach all the time. Now all of a sudden there's a big giant shark in there, can't go to the beach, right? You had like Jaws and Star Wars was out, you know, that kind of thing. And then here's The Exorcist, this rated R movie where basically this girl gets possessed by a demon and the Catholic Church has to try to exorcise her, right? And so it was super scary because when I was a little kid, it's like, okay, I can avoid a shark. I just don't go to the beach.
Yeah.
You know, you can avoid the Amityville horror house by not going in the house, you know, or not going to that location. But this demon thing, you could just be possessed at any time. So I was kind of scared for a while, you know. And before these scary movies, my experience with monsters and ghosts and demons and stuff were like your classic sort of golden cinema, like the Wolfman and Frankenstein and Dracula. None of them were particularly fast. You could probably outrun them, except for Wolfman was pretty quick, but they weren't that scary.
Yeah.
You know, and this is also sort of around the same time frame that Alien came out. And that movie scared the crap out of me because that was serious business.
Yeah.
So, and I think my dad took me to see that, if I remember correctly. He may not remember, but I do. Because it was not a fun, happy movie like Star Wars, right? I mean, it was a nice science fiction epic that said, in space, no one can hear you scream.
Let me guess, he probably took you to Star Wars and you all liked that.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
And then, like, he sees another spacey movie, takes you to that, and he's like, oh, God, what have I done?
Yeah, it's like, do you want to go? I was too scared. Like, nope, I'll stay right here. So anyway, here comes The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
And The Exorcist, you know, it's a scary movie. It was pretty big. People were freaking out. But what people don't realize is that, you know, there was a lot of things that happened in the making of that movie that, you know, didn't bode well. I mean, so they have this horrifying subject matter, you know, with demons and that sort of thing. And then on the behind the scenes, they were all experiencing terrible things too. And they call that The Exorcist Curse.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's some of the things that happened, right?
Yeah.
During the filming of Exorcist and slightly beyond. So people that were working on this movie and starring in the movie had issues, and they called it Exorcist Curse. So Linda Blair played the young girl who was possessed, right? Her name was Reagan.
Yeah.
Or Regan, however you want to pronounce that. Depends on, you know. And so one of the things that happened to her was she suffered injuries on the set, right? She fractured her lower back while she was doing one of her own terrifying contortions, because that was like some of the creepy part of that movie was the crazy contortions that she could do, right?
Yeah.
You know, she's being possessed and all that sort of thing. Because that kind of stuff is like super creepy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, because that's part of being possessed. And how can you know, how do you know if somebody's being possessed by the devil? Because they can do things that, you know, humanly shouldn't be done. And some of that is the crazy contortions and, you know, terrible voices and that sort of thing. Okay, so, you know, along with the injuries that she had from doing her terrifying contortions, there were other strange occurrences that also happened, like on the set when they were making the movie.
Yeah.
They had a mysterious fire that burned the entire set. Right, except for the bedroom where, you know, her character, Linda Blair's character, was possessed.
Okay, that's weird.
So everything burned except for that room.
Huh.
Yeah. And so some of the quotes that, you know, they talk about is like, It is strange that movies that have to do with the occult will have spooky or strange things happen to the actors and to the crew. And Linda Blair experienced some of those accidents. So you have film expert Kaylin Corrigan.
Yeah.
Right? She puts it mildly. She said, in addition to Blair, Ellen Burstyn, who was in that movie, she played Regan's mother, also sustained what would be a permanent injury to her back while doing her own stunt in a scene where her daughter throws her from the bed.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. An injury so painful that her real scream was used in the film, which added an extra level of creepiness. And Burstyn only agreed to take the role if the director removed one of her character's lines. You know what that line was?
What?
I believe in the devil.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, also Chris McNeil couldn't help her daughter Regan in the movie, right? And Ellen Burstyn's request couldn't help other cast members, crew members, or even their relatives and other movie attendees escape from what would eventually, and with good reason, become known as the Exorcist Curse. Dun, dun, dun. So, okay, so actor Jack McGowan, who played Burke Dennings, who was a character, died while babysitting Regan, right? Yeah. In the movie. So he was babysitting Regan and he died, or Reagan, however you say her name. I can't remember. I was a little kid. He died of a flu-related heart attack shortly after filming a scene. Gosh. Yeah. And there's actress Vasily Malarios. I can't remember. I don't really know what character she played. I can't remember. Whose only movie role was in The Exorcist as Father Karras's mother. Died of natural causes. She was 89 while the film was basically still in post-production. Yeah. So, Father Karras's mother died, right? Ellen Burstyn, back problems, right? From whatever, the injuries that she suffered. Linda Blair had back problems. Flu-related heart attack so far. Jason Miller, who played Father Damien Karras, lost his infant son in a motorbike accident during the filming. And the Exorcist death list of people who died during the filming also includes Linda Blair's grandfather, actor Max von Sydow's brother, right? Died as well. A night watchman and special effects expert, and a cameraman's newborn baby.
That's pretty serious.
So all these people are like dying and having problems because they make this movie, and it's like, and it's weird because like that didn't. One of the lines in the movie is like, "I cast you out, unclean spirit," and it didn't really work in the movie either because just as it was being released, The Exorcist didn't end the curse. Yeah. Right. So by having the movie come out, it didn't stop it. Actress Mercedes McCambridge, right, who gave the demon its terrifying voice by swallowing raw eggs, chain smoking, and drinking whiskey. Oh. To get that crazy demonic voice, she became an alcoholic. Gosh. Right. She eventually became sober, but she was financially defrauded by her son, John Markle, who then murdered his wife and daughters before killing himself. Yeah. So speaking of murder, right, we got Paul Batson, who was an X-ray technician who played the X-ray technician in the movie. Yeah. He murdered a film critic and allegedly killed 6 other men.
Why is that name familiar?
Because he murdered a film critic and allegedly killed 6 other men. So we're coming up on like 10 people dead so far just have been associated with this movie. Mysterious fire on the set. There was reports of props that were moving on their own. The telephone handset used in many scenes would reportedly lift off its receiver numerous times. And there was a reverend who was there to be a religious advisor, is Thomas Birmingham. Right? He was asked by director William Friedkin to perform an exorcism. And he refused to do a full exorcism, electing just to basically bless the set. Maybe he should have done one. Yeah. So. Yeah, there's all sorts of creepy lines in that movie, too. Like, how long are you going to stay in, Regan? Until she rots in the earth, is what the demon said. So, yeah. That curse lasted for a while. The film came out in 73. I seen it later, but, because I was little. Yeah. But, it was still a creepy movie, right? And so now it's kind of crazy because Linda Blair is 60, Ellen Burstyn's 86, and there's probably a few more cast and crew members around. But this movie is still a movie that now you watch during Halloween. It's like a super scary horror movie. But yeah, I remember hearing about some of the crazy stuff that was happening on that movie. I didn't like that movie at all. If I could help it, I wouldn't watch it because it was super, super scary. Okay. So, Yeah, and you can read that article. It's basically posted on Mysterious Universe. Paul Seaborn wrote it, and I thought it was pretty funny. I was like, I mean, not funny, but it's like, that's pretty creepy. Because I was just thinking of scary movies, right? I mean, I was a little kid. Wolfman, Frankenstein, they were from the 50s, right? You could watch them just on regular TV. Imagine being a kid now.
Yeah.
I mean, Stranger Things probably would have terrified, I think, a lot of kids, you know.
Actually, didn't we meet a kid who can't watch Stranger Things? She said it was spooky.
No, they were just like, no, it's not scary at all.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. Kind of scary. So anyway, your interesting random factoid is that there is a curse called the Exorcist Curse. And it's concerning the movie The Exorcist.
Okay. We're just going to ramble this episode.
That's right. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah. So what do you think about that? Pretty awful, right?
Yeah.
Pretty scary. Okay. So in the podcast, we're like I said, we're going to have more of our user submissions because people are actually submitting them. It's fantastic. And we have one that Omi's going to read to you. It's from Ashley.
Yes.
And since Ashley is a girl, it makes sense that Omi, who is also a girl, can read the story.
It's 2019. You can read the story.
I could. But, hey.
Okay. Ashley reached out to us on Instagram and then submitted a story for us.
Yes.
And this is pretty much about seeing a skinwalker. Now, she did share some other stories. We'll actually share those on the CreepGeeks Podcast website, but we'll just go over her experience seeing a skinwalker. And she grew up on the Navajo Reservation in Arizona. Her dad worked for Transwestern Natural Gas, and they had a substation out there. Now, when you live in the Southwest, you'll notice there's a lot of gas or fuel substations in very rural and remote places, and each of them needs to get checked on. So it would make sense that her dad would have to travel to these and check on them regularly. Anyway, there were many times when there was a skinwalker story or a spotting or a sighting, and her family, they'd all load up into a pickup truck and head out into the desert. Never saw one that way, but the stories were part of everybody's day-to-day life. Now, according to Ashley, one summer afternoon, all of us kids had gone to where the company airstrip was and set up tents and were doing our typical play thing. I was walking along the fence by the airstrip and noticed a big, dark object out in the desert, maybe 50 yards away. I stopped and looked at it. This was flat. There's no trees or any plants except rolling tumbleweeds desert, typical Southwest desert. So anything dark and sticking out was pretty out of the ordinary. It looked like a huge, weird dog, and at first I thought it was, and that's at first what she thought it was. But it was too big to be that, and while it looked as though it was sitting on its haunches, it also only seemed to be on 2 legs. And according to her, my elementary school brain kicked in, and I thought, that's not a dog. Is it a gorilla? And at that point, she just froze. It then turned and took off, but not like a dog running away. It almost leapt at a very fast pace and disappeared. I immediately went back to my tent, packed up all of my things, and ran home, not saying a word, as was typical for my childhood and all the crazy encounters I had as a girl living, near and on the reservation. So was this confirmed? No. She ended up having many nightmares about it and somehow knew that she had finally seen a skinwalker. She loves the unknown and the paranormal and has had some wild experiences, but this, I guess, was one of her first ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because, I mean, if you're out there in the Southwest, there's not really, a ton of trees and all that stuff. So when you're in the desert, dark things, it's hard for stuff just to kind of sneak up on you.
Yeah.
So.
And it's funny, this is very similar, like the western New Mexico, towards the Navajo res. You start to hear a lot of these stories about this. Yeah,
especially even it gets up into Arizona too.
Well, remember the Farmington video from like last year, and the skinwalker was blackish, which is weird because we've had these stories and then that video, but then when you hear the stories of it, it's more of a grayish or a brown, like the earthy color. So it's interesting to hear this story where it's black and then the video. So that kind of, makes me go, all right, she definitely saw something.
Yeah.
The gorilla thing throws me off because I'm like, because I mean.
Well, I mean, if it looks like a big shape kind of hunched over on its haunches or just kind of sitting there, it probably wouldn't look like a dog.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that, and what else, if you're a little kid, these days, right, your first inclination would be that's Bigfoot. But you know what I mean? But it's not. I mean,
no,
probably wouldn't be anyway.
Because the first things I think of when I think of a Bigfoot is a gorilla is like the muscular nature of it.
Yeah.
And I don't associate skinwalker with muscular. But what I do associate, and it's kind of similar with a gorilla, is the extremely long arms. Yeah. Like the dangling. So when it's sitting and it looks like it's on its haunches type thing, Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
It is. And if you have a story you'd like to share with us, you can share that with that phone number that we gave you all earlier, the 575-208-4025, or you can email us. That's going to be contact@creepgeeks.com.
Yes. Very nice. So when we have a couple of these user submissions, sometimes we get some really neat sort of audio clips that go along with it, right?
Yeah.
And this one's kind of a weird audio clip, and I'm hoping I'm going to play the right one. And then we'll tell you the story. So let me see if I can find it real quick. I think it's this one. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to turn it up so you can hear it again. Okay. What do you think that is?
So I have my own theories, but okay. I want you to explain it.
Okay, so this is the second user submission. This is kind of strange. One of the things that we did over Halloween was we went to a place called Keepers. What was it called?
Keepers Cut Meadery.
Keepers Cut Meadery, because we did basically a charity sort of fundraiser where we went and we set up the podcast and we actually talked to people that told us some stories and things like that. We actually posted a video up on the YouTube channel of some lovely people that came and sat down and talked to us. Well, before that, there was a lady and her little daughter. I'm not sure how old she was. She was like a little, very smart, kind of sharp little kid, right? Yeah. And she came up and was telling me ghost stories.
She just walked up to you.
She just came straight up to me and said, basically, let me tell you about my ghost stories. And it's like, all right. And she, talked for a while, but she talked about a ghost and of being in her household, and her mom also talked about a ghost in the household. So we talked for a while.
What's the interesting part about that ghost?
I don't know.
He's as big as the doorway.
Well, yeah. I don't remember that part because I'm also as big as the doorway.
Would you stop?
Yeah, but so they came up and they talked for a while, right? And her mom had mentioned some of the weird stuff, and like when they were sleeping, right? And sometimes her daughter would wake up in the middle of the night and come in the bedroom because she wanted to sleep in the bed.
Yeah,
like the little kids do. But the ghost that they have in her household is like what Omi was saying. It was like it's huge and as big as the doorway, and the little girl just kind of freaked her out a little bit, but the mom a little bit, and So anyway, they wound up sleeping together, and the mom recorded the audio on a dream recorder app where, if you talk in your sleep, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Evidently there's an app you can use, and you start it, and when it hears something, it starts to record. So if you're talking in your sleep or you're, something like that, you can play it back, and see what you said. You could also use it if you wake up real quick and, because you have a dream and you want to record what you've seen in your dream so you don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
because the longer you stay awake, the more the dream fades and the less details that you remember. So that's what she recorded one night and thought it would be cool to send to us. And of course, when I got the audio, she sent it relatively late at night. And I played it late at night outside, and I was like, man, that is super creepy sounding. So we kind of put it to you. What do you think this thing says? Or what do you think it is saying? Or what do you think, basically? So, if you want to leave a comment somewhere and let us know, you can use a phone number, call in if you want, or you can use our Facebook group or whatever. Kind of be interesting to see what you think it is. What do you think it is, Omi?
I'm a little skeptical. I honestly think if it's not paranormal, then it's probably a case of dual vocal cords and a light touch of sleep apnea.
Yeah, because dual vocal cords, that's real common.
Yes.
No. No, come on.
We just talked about one of our favorite singers having them. So.
Listen. I don't know.
Okay.
It's said that ghosts can use your voice when you're sleeping.
That is unnerving. Okay, because that's actually across multiple traditions.
Like kind of crazy stuff like,
yeah.
I don't know. Why are you here or something like that? Yeah.
But yeah, so we are going to share more user submissions.
Yes.
And if you have something else for Greg to play at 2:00 in the morning so he can't sleep, please send it.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to play something that's viral and been going around before we get into talking about where we've been.
Okay.
Because it's a viral Bigfoot howl from Canada. It's been all in the news, and we listened to it. And it's pretty freaking creepy.
Yeah.
But it's not creepy in a way that you think, oh my God, it's so scary. To me, it's creepy in a way that's completely different. So what we're going to do, and we don't normally do this kind of thing, we're going to play a clip of that howl. And this is all over the internet. And we do have a link to the howl where you can actually go listen to it on your own and kind of follow along. So I'm hoping this is the right audio for this one too. So here we go. So that clip, right, recorded in Canada, is creepy.
Yep. Ontario hunter Gino Meekus.
Yeah. It basically is the video, and that's the audio from the video. His wife and his grandson, right, they were out there. They didn't immediately leave the area. They stopped to record it. They were out grouse hunting when they heard the scream. And, I've been out in the woods. I haven't heard anything like that.
Yeah.
That's not like an elk or a moose. It kind of started out sounding like a wolf call, but it's not. Right? So what is it? Is it a Canadian Bigfoot, eh? But what's creepy for me, aside from the kid making noise, because when you hear it in headphones, I didn't realize the kid was going to be.
Yeah.
That kind of creeped me out a little bit, but is that the howl, which the video goes on for like 2 minutes and 8 seconds, doesn't sound threatening. It sounds sad.
See, to me, though, it doesn't sound sad. It sounds in agony.
That's what I mean.
Like
if you lost a loved one, you'd make that kind of sound.
Or dying.
Or both.
Dying a long, painful death.
Yeah. So maybe Bigfoot's out in the wood, lost a loved one, and it's just, in sad anguish.
But to counter that.
Maybe he stepped on something like a Lego. Same sort of aggravation. Yeah.
So anything, like I'm trying to imagine like a disease that would cause, or some sort of event that would cause something to howl in distress like that. And dogs that suffer mange will howl throughout the night because they're very uncomfortable. So I wonder, A, is it a wolf with mange? But then I don't think the wolf would be strong enough to howl that loud.
Yeah, that is a crazy loud howl.
It's a very strong howl at a significant distance because it's strong enough to not only echo but to reach a far distance. And
which is usually what happens with an echo.
Well, I mean, like a really strong.
Okay, so what you're saying, it has reverberation to it.
Yeah.
So it's deep. Yeah.
And then, can Bigfoot catch mange? That would be awful.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. I think if you're Bigfoot and you live out in the woods, if you're starting to get a little catch of the mange, you know to go put some mud on you or something.
Yeah, like you would think.
So, I mean, who knows? But to me, it didn't sound like creepy, fear-inducing. It sounded like it was sad, maybe full of anguish.
But what's a little terrifying to me is like you were saying, the little kid can be heard because there's actually two parts. There's the 2-minute plus video, and then there's a 49-second video.
Yeah.
If you go to the guy's YouTube channel, the kid is trying.
And there's a link in the show notes for that.
Yeah, the kid is trying to mimic him, the creature.
The kid's calling back.
And then you can hear his wife going, shh, shh.
That's grandma. You can hear grandma going, shut up. Yeah. This kid's like, hey, man.
What if that kid managed to let off a good enough sound and it's like, oh, I'm not sad or I'm not sick anymore. Let me go find that juvenile.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like when you hear when you hear and see on TV where Bigfoot or cryptid researchers go out and they do these crazy howls trying to get your attention. And I don't know if I was talking to somebody or somebody brought up, it's like, why would you go out in the woods and yell a Bigfoot mating call?
Yeah, you were talking to somebody, but yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny. Imagine you're surprised being a cryptid researcher and Bigfoot comes flying out of the woods because he thinks he's got a hot date. And he just sees you standing there with a stick that you've been banging on a tree yelling some.
He's got some apples and some pretty rocks.
Yeah, he's got some gifts for you and you're out there with a stick banging on a tree yelling love noises at Bigfoot. So, I mean, you probably.
But here's the other thing.
That would be hilarious.
So a lot of sites are calling this a Bigfoot howl. I found one other site that I didn't link to only because they have the same exact information as the article in our show notes.
Yeah.
Where they're like, is it a Bigfoot or is it a Wendigo? And that's interesting.
I don't know. It is kind of.
Because I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know. For whatever reason, I think a Wendigo would be higher pitch.
Like a screech?
Yeah.
You
like a wraith or
just because you have the I think I have that subliminal connotation that it should be more like harpy like almost.
Well, yeah, because they're supposed to be tall and skinny and weird looking.
Well, they're supposed to be like the northern equivalent of a skinwalker almost, you know. But
which I don't picture having a deep voice, not like a dogman or something.
Maybe there's masculine Wendigo. So I don't know.
It's 2019.
Yes, they can be anything they want.
Yeah.
So
whatever you want to identify with, I guess, or as, I don't know. But to me, it doesn't sound creepy. To me, it sounds kind of sad and full of anguish.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, Bigfoot buddy, you Canadian Bigfoot guy,
So you want to know something interesting?
What?
This video, both parts, you can hear at one point, the grandma is definitely scared. So she picks up the grandson.
Yeah.
She starts walking to the car. And you hear the car door click open. And the screams continue, but basically they're getting towards the car and they're opening the car door. What is another Bigfoot howl or sequence that we hear? A car door. The Sierra sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thinking about that.
You're like, give me a pop quiz one? I don't know.
No, that's just a weird parallel there. I just realized, because if you listen to the Sierra sounds, you start to hear something weird and mechanical.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That's just really weird to me.
I thought you were going to say something like, and there was another scream in front of them and behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another thing too. I don't think Bigfoot goes around by himself. So if you're out in the woods and you see one, chances are there's 2 or 3 more that probably see you too.
Oh gosh.
So
don't scare people.
Well, I know think about it. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, most animals just don't go cruising around the woods by themselves, but I would think more likely that, if there is such thing as Sasquatch, that they don't particularly travel alone or not necessarily alone. So if you're out there and you see one and you're like, oh, I'm going to shoot this guy. If he comes at me, I'm going to shoot him. Chances are they're going to get you, because if you shoot one, you might have one coming up behind you. So just watch your six. That's all I'm saying.
And we might talk more about that later, because one of our newer friends that we've made at some of these events, we had a little discussion the other night about that.
Yep. But anyway, when we were in New Mexico, we experienced a similar sort of sound, a loud call, if you will, when we were at Echo Amphitheater. I happen to remember it. I have audio. It's exclusive audio.
Vivid.
Yes, of what we heard in New Mexico at Echo Amphitheater. I would like to play it for you now.
Okay.
So please listen carefully. So I'm at Echo Amphitheater, and it's kind of hard to tell. I'm going to speak loud. Ready? What? Who said that? Hello? I know it's short, but I think it does the job.
I cannot believe it.
That was Father's Day, too. Like, oh. But it had a little echo to it. Not like that. I mean, because if you listen to the Bigfoot Howl, that thing just got some serious power behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So, deep lungs, I guess. Yep. Pretty crazy. So, speaking of crazy, we have a couple news things that we'll cover real quick. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the actual news items that we were going to talk about is the Bigfoot Howl, which we just did. And there is something that I thought was pretty bizarre. There's been accounts of dinosaurs in Texas.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Don't know what kind of dinosaurs. Probably T-Rexes. So all my T-Rexes live in Texas, right?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, this article is from Brent Swanser. Also of Mysterious Universe.
Oh, a theropod.
Yep.
Okay.
Like you know what that is.
Yes, I do,
don't know
actually.
What's a theropod?
A theropod is basically an upright two-legged dinosaur, somewhat similar to a T-Rex, but not really. So they're...
You know what?
They're more raptor-like.
I guess I'll just have to believe you because I don't know.
All right.
So anyway, kind of go through this. There's been some sort of reports, if you will. Some of the strangest cryptid reports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Congregate around sightings that appear to be some sort of living dinosaur stalking through the wild places in our world, right? There are certain places where you could sort of imagine this kind of thing happen. Deepest, darkest, unexplored, jungles of Africa, South America, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some of these seem to be making appearances in other areas that would not traditionally be at the top of most people's list of places to find actual surviving dinosaurs. Like, for example, the desert badlands of the U.S. state of Texas. Desert badlands. That's pretty much New Mexico. Desert badland, right?
It is, the whole place.
Yeah. So, there's been so these reports of dinosaurs in Texas have been going on for a long time. And the report seems something like very much like a T-Rex or some other similar bipedal dinosaur, which means two legs. And some of the reports are bizarre, right? Just as they are surprising. So some of these sightings, when you talk about the theropod dinosaur, right? They come from Lon Strickler, who's over at Phantoms and Monsters. And in 2013, he published a report basically with the heading, Dinosaurs Run Amok in South Texas Town, where that book has a truly outlandish account of a witness identifying himself simply as MR of Hebron, Texas. And he said that it happened to him during the summer months of that year in 2013.
Yeah.
And when temperatures were really hot is when it seems the dinosaurs were on the prowl. Okay, which makes sense because if they're kind of like cold-blooded, And the witness says it started when a friend of his claimed to have spotted what looked like a bipedal theropod dinosaur, very much like a small T-Rex, scramble across the street right through the swath of the headlights of a car about 8:45 at night. This thing, in other words, it ran in front of the headlights, right?
Yeah.
And he says that when he heard of this sighting, it brought back memories of his own weird experience just a few months before, and it put it into much clearer focus. And here's what he said of his bizarre encounter. He said, just a couple months before I'd actually heard a creature I can only describe as a dinosaur, I'd been asleep and it had been at night, about 1 or 2 a.m. I had awoken, and just at that moment, I heard an unfamiliar screech of something running by my window.
Hmm.
We have a AC unit in the window. So the window is basically open. I heard its footsteps as it ran by, and it was heavy, whatever it was. I could hear it clearly on the ground, and as it ran further away, I could hear it screech again. It was nothing like I've ever heard in my life. It was loud, too. And I wonder if anyone else heard or saw it. I live in an apartment complex, and I just lay there in bed completely bewildered by what I just heard. So I questioned my sanity, and if what I heard, what I thought I heard, right?
Yeah.
So when my friend saw the dinosaurs, she was excited and wanted to tell me about because of what he'd heard.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm only sad that I didn't get to see it too," and we both questioned our sanity. And so around the same time, Lon Strickler posted another eyewitness report from some man in Falforest, Texas, which is about 18 miles east of Hebronville. Or I don't know how to pronounce anything, so I'm having a hard time. So the witness, who calls himself LM, claimed that the region was actually undergoing quite a spate of such bizarre sightings and becoming ground zero for all manner of dinosaur encounters. So this guy who's in this Falfurrias, Texas, right? He said that he and others had seen those creatures, and his neighbor saw a pair in 2012 on the roadway behind their house.
Oh.
Yeah, they were scared to report the sighting, and I know other people in this area have seen the same creatures. Right?
Yeah.
And there's also a family member from Sabinas Hidalgo in Mexico told him he'd seen a big lizard the last time he'd visited. And he saw it when he was driving near McAllen, Texas.
Yeah.
2 to 3 feet tall, large head, long tail, ran on 2 legs, and was very dark in color. And the 2 creatures he saw were dark brown, walking quickly on 2 legs also. It was about 4:30 p.m., and he watched them for about 20 seconds as they moved towards the dead end of the road. They got a very good look. And for a few nights after that, they'd heard short shrills coming from the brush at the end of that road. And then a couple weeks later, he said that his son and his friends had found many quail feathers and deer bones scattered by a tree in the same bush or same brush. And evidently they contacted the wildlife authority about the remains, but they didn't mention what they'd seen.
Oh.
He said it was probably coyotes. He said, though I have not heard or seen coyotes for a long time. And another report talks about where another neighbor lost a dog about the same time. And coyotes were said to be the predator, but no remains were ever found. Right?
Yeah.
And the person's husband was alarmed. And they had a very heavy-duty steel leak fence built around the yard so they could keep their grandchildren and pets safe.
Which is good because...
So that's all right. It's kind of crazy, right? So they see dinosaurs, and rather than report to other people that they see dinosaurs because they don't want to be, whatever.
Yeah.
They just build a large fence.
Well, that's Texas.
So they were
for
scared.
You.
I know, but they were scared enough to actually put the money and put a large chain link fence up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, that witness claims that our guard dogs have been acting skittish and afraid. And then, of course, the speculation is being, what could it be? Chupacabras, which is the blood-sucking goat killer.
Yeah.
There's another report back in 2011 by a witness named MG, and she said that at the time she'd been walking along a dusty road, coming back from work about 5:45 p.m., noticed something odd in the form of plumes of dust wafting up in the air from a nearby field as if something was running. Which normally wouldn't be strange, right?
Yeah.
But basically, on the side of the road, and here's what she said, on the side of the road where I was walking, I saw dust being kicked up in the air, moving along the field. The trail of dust was heading towards the road in front of me. I stopped walking, not knowing what may be exiting on the road. I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense I would stop too.
Yeah.
Right? And about 40 feet in front of me was what I can only describe as a little T-Rex dinosaur, about 2.5 feet in height. It didn't stop running as it dashed across the road into a smaller field. It was a light reddish brown, stood on 2 legs, had a long tail, and was straight. Like when he ran, it was straight out. Like his tail,
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, there is no way that this was a lizard known to live here. It looked very much like a photo of the toy I'd found online, and no one wanted to believe me. My friends and family think I mistook it for another lizard, but I know what I saw. I do believe there are very strange creatures around here. And my ex-husband used to talk about huge birds and walking shadows that he and others would see on a ranch south of Hebronville.
Yeah, because Hebronville has Thunderbird sightings.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then she also talked about at one point several cattle would go missing without a trace, and he would never stay out there at night.
Ooh.
So, who knows? And there is some reference to that may possibly tie into all the sightings of the dinosaur-like creatures, right?
Yeah.
Spotted in different parts of rural Texas. And there was a report called into an episode of Coast to Coast AM in 2014 where the witness calling himself Dan, told of an experience he had as a teenager in Midland, Texas.
Oh, Midland. Okay.
Yeah, he said he'd often go out dirt biking with his buddies and in the rugged, how do you say it?
Rugged
desert. That's right. Scrub land stretching all about him. He said on one such excursion, they had spotted what he calls a mini T-Rex. 2 feet high, stood up on its back legs, he said it didn't have like fingers like you'd normally see on T-Rex in the movies with 3 or 4 fingers. It only had 1 claw. That's weird. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were running around their motorcycles and scared it off. They said, but it was greenish yellow, right? I assumed it was some kind of weird lizard, but it was about 2, maybe 2.5 feet tall. When it stood up, it had this egg-shaped dome. That's kind of strange.
Like a duckbill.
Yeah. Well, like his head.
Or, what is that?
Not like a duckbill. Like a dome head, right? He said, the only thing I can say is that it did look like a T-Rex. It had an egg-shaped face or head.
Hadrosaur. Hadrosaur has the duck head. So. And
it says, the caller talks about an old Art Bell show where a caller described an encounter with the T-Rex. They said there was 4 of us. There was maybe 13 or 14 years old at the time. They saw it crawling around on all 4s. And as we rode up on it, it reared back, had these tiny little arms, looked like a little T-Rex. Honestly, I thought, basically. So anyway, he didn't think about it until years later, until he heard that call on our Bell show. He says, it was angry. It wasn't happy that me and my friends were riding our dirt bikes in that area. And then there's another website, Frontiers of Zoology. There's another report of a mini T-Rex from an unidentified witness. Southeast Texas also describes it as a baby T-Rex.
Oviraptor would be along those lines because it has the egg head and it has the tiny T-Rex arms. The other one would be
Does that little pointed claws, like 2 little claws for hands?
No, this one still has the 2 or 3 fingers, but the other thing would be the Pachycephalosaurus, who just has really small, you can't even see what kind of digits it's got. Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I mean, these are a lot of people over a period of time seeing what's kind of the same thing.
This sounds like the...
all my mini T-Rexes live in Texas?
No, that one theory, the time slip portal.
Maybe. I mean, would it be possible, though, for a mini T-Rex to live in the desert?
Well, sure.
I mean, how would he get there? I don't know, right? And there's been other reports, too, of different types of... dinosaur-like creatures. Like one of them's called the mountain boomer, right? Which is said to lurk mostly in the rugged mountain wilderness of the Big Bend region near Big Bend National Park.
Oh, wow. And that's right on the border.
Yeah. 5 to 7 feet tall. Looks like a mini T-Rex. Bipedal gait, tapered tail, powerful hind legs, and tiny forelegs, tipped with sharp claws. And some reports mention large flaps of skin above and below the head. And the creature is sometimes basically said to have been a low booming howl, which has been described as sounding like a rumbling like distant thunder. And the creatures are said to be mostly shy and elusive, but there was a report from the 70s that claimed that one actually ran a car off the road. So, I mean, so it goes back even before the 2000s. If you look at the 70s, and they're calling it the mountain boomer.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. So what sort of animal lives in Texas that could possibly be mistaken as a bipedal dinosaur?
Bipedal, no. In general, armadillo, roadrunner.
Yeah, but I mean, is there like a 2.5 foot tall armadillo that can go running across the road? Those things look like little,
and they don't really
run.
run.
Those little potato bugs, man. Those little roly-poly looking things.
Yeah. They don't really run.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's a goat sucking thing either. It could be an iguanodon.
No. Roadrunner, maybe?
Nah. You would know a roadrunner from a dinosaur. I mean, the feathers and the fact that a roadrunner would run right up to you, begging for hamburgers like they do in New Mexico.
Stop?
We used to have that one that used to crap on the car. I would come home and he'd be sitting on or standing on top of the car.
Yeah.
Waiting.
Yeah.
So he could run across the roof and taunt the dogs.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't like me. I didn't like him either, though. I was like, go ahead, keep crapping on my car, see what happens. You know what happened? Nothing.
Turned the hose on him once.
Yeah, he was too quick for that.
Yeah.
So, but he did give me a look like, really, dude? As he just ran and jumped on the trash can, jumped on the roof, and just ran across the roof. It's like, really? It's like, okay, bird. So, but yeah, the reason why I put that in there is because I thought it was pretty strange the fact that, that there's reports happening and have happened over time of freaking little mini T-Rexes, man.
Which is funny because...
First off, that's super cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of likely. I mean, if something that could look like that could survive in that particular region, it makes it more likely. Although it's highly unlikely that a dinosaur survived, but maybe it didn't survive. Maybe it's a new dinosaur.
Oh.
Maybe there was some kind of experimentation going on.
Would
or
you
something.
quit speculating?
Maybe one day they'll create an island and they can put all these recreated dinosaurs on there. Yeah.
No.
So I don't know. 2 to 3 feet tall, large head, long tail, runs on 2 legs, very dark in color. Has 2 little claw nubbies for arms. Folds of fat, flappy skin on its forehead and underneath. That's right. Little Fatosaurus Rex.
Would you stop?
Kind of crazy. I mean, if I seen something like that as if I was driving down the road, first off, I would be pulling over. And secondly, I'd be checking my front and rear dash camera to see if we caught it. Imagine if you hit one of those with your car. How do you explain that?
With the dome plate on its head?
Yeah, you might just like knock it out. And you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
It's not a deer. So then you put it in the back of your car, right? Like that deer guy did. Because, he put that smashed up deer in the back of his car, which is evidently was just knocked unconscious. And I think when that thing came to, he just like started kicking at him or like beating him.
Yeah.
But it started whooping on him in the car, and he said like he got out, he was in a phone booth, he called the police about that deer that was in his car, just smashing stuff up and trying to get out. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Was that one of the stupid news we did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the story from a long time. There was actually audio recording of it where they called 911. And the dude was freaking out over that deer. He said bad words. Yeah. So, there you go.
Okay.
So there you go. Next time you're in around Hebronville, Texas, or Hebronville, however you say that, watch out for the dinosaurs. Bring a camera. Take some pictures. I mean, there's been enough Jurassic Park movies. I'm sure if we watch some, we could go out there and use some of those movie skills to help us capture a dinosaur. Maybe take some pictures, put on the Instagrams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So we have been traveling. We have been going places. We have been doing events, and here's something too, to kind of go back to the events. We go and we see people, we talk to people, we talk to famous people, researchers, subject matter experts, right? People from different places and stuff like that. And it's kind of nice. We sell knickknacks and swags that help support the podcast to get us out there and get us a little gas money. And I'm not going to feel bad about that. I'm not going to feel guilty at all. We have good prices and stuff. And honestly, a lot of some of the stuff that we have that we sell at such a low price. So if you're ever there, you come over and talk to us, is what brings people over. And why they're rooting around trying to find stuff and get the bargain. We're like, hey, have you heard of our podcast? And they're like, no. How much does this cost? And I go, it's $1. They go, oh, you guys have a podcast? And I go, yeah. You should listen to it. We talk about paranormal and weird news. And then sometimes, and this is a question that always throws me for a loop, they go, what's a podcast? And I go, do you know what year it is?
Stop it.
And they go, yeah, it's 2019. And you don't know what a podcast is? No. I'm like, oh, well, let me explain it to you. Because sometimes I think they're joking. You know, like one person's like, well, how do you play it? When does it come on? I'm like, well, you know, we do one towards the end of the week. And they're like, oh, so how do I know when it comes on? It's like, well, it's a podcast. You can watch it whenever you want. And they go, really? How does that work? It's like, well, you download them. Oh. And I'm thinking, really? It's kind of like having a VCR. You could just set it to record, you know, and just kind of let you know, like a TiVo. Like, hey, there's a new podcast.
No, I think the primary point was
one guy asked me if I could show him on his phone.
Yeah.
And he basically opened up, it was like a text pad file or something stupid on his phone.
Notes.
Well, it wasn't notes. I don't know what it was. It wasn't like, you know, Google Keep or something like that. He's like, like, well, you need a podcast player. What are you going to play your podcast with? And he's like, I don't know.
No, okay, so the Pennsylvania event.
This dude was like 35 years old. He should know this kind of thing. How do you not know what a podcast is?
And then the event, not the event before it, but the one in the middle.
Well,
Georgia.
According to other podcasters.
Yeah.
And podcast blogs, right?
Yeah.
Podcasts are like the biggest growing thing out there. And at the end of the year, there'll be like 14 billion podcasts, and they're so popular. I think it's just a bunch of hype.
Yeah.
So.
But at Pennsylvania, you had how many people ask you how to access the podcast?
All of them.
Yeah. And then I had several people where by the third time I was asked, I basically had to say, and we're available on all major podcast platforms. You don't have to download anything special because we're syndicated everywhere.
Well, technically you wouldn't call it syndication. It's just really simple syndication, right?
Yeah.
RSS feed.
So.
But it just reminds me of like a Saturday Night Live skit where you had the people talking to Alexa, Amazon Alexa, and they're like, Alexis! You know what I mean?
Allegra!
And just start yelling stuff at it, trying to get it to do. But no. I don't know. If you made it this far in the podcast, we very much appreciate it. So, anyway, so let's talk about some of the places we've been. Because we have done the vending thing, and it's funny because some events you do, they don't call you a vendor, they call you an exhibitor. Yeah. And in some places, whether you exhibit things or not, they call you a vendor. Yeah. But primarily the difference between a vendor and an exhibitor and an attendee, if you will, is that if you're a guest and you buy a ticket and you go into a conference, you're typically not there selling things, you're there purchasing things. And also maybe attending the conference to listen to different speakers and talks and take notes. That sort of, or maybe you like want to see some of your people that you want to see that you've watched on TV, like Mountain Monsters,
Heather Taddy.
Yeah, She Squatchers, all these like A&E kind of ghost shows / Bigfoot shows. I mean, all the cable networks have these shows now. Yeah. So, and we started going to them, and we bought tickets the first time and went as guests, and then we were like, hey, man, as we were talking to somebody, hey, how much did a table cost? Did and the table cost was less than the tickets. And we're like, we should just buy a table and just show up. You know what I mean? And so instead of spending $150, we could just spend $50 on the table and just walk around and see these people and talk to them, all these famous stars.
You're going to let all the event people know this tip, and it's going to mess up all the events for next year.
That's a negative, Ghost Rider, because we are seasoned professionals. At the very beginning of this podcast, we've already established that we did like 15 of these things.
No, you had to count it out.
Because I can't remember. That's my job, is to drive and make sure we get there safely. The rest of it is pretty much on you.
Okay.
Did you just get out of the way? And I'm like, yeah, how much is that? $1,700. So I just like to throw out the $700 price tag on everything to see what they say. Some people get super worked up over that because they think I'm serious. It's like, just relax, man. Read the sign. Paranormal and weird news, we take a lighthearted approach. Like, have a little fun, bro. Buy a sticker. Stick it on your phone. Stick it in your kid's hair. I don't care. Have a good time. I do like little kids that show up. When they're well behaved, I give them stuff. So.
Except for the little kid who ran up to you last time. It's my birthday.
Yeah. No, he ran up yelling. He ran up all crazy, and his parents were running. I mean, he physically come running up to the table, and his parents were physically running after him. He's like, "Give me a gift! It's like he knew he had limited time because he knew his parents were going to get him. And he's like, give me a gift, it's my birthday. And he started grabbing stuff off the table because his parents had already grabbed him. Both of them grabbed him and were pulling him off the table. He knew he didn't have much time. You know what I mean? So he was just grabbing whatever he could because it was like he was being drug away. You know? It's like, take this and give this to my family kind of a thing, right? So I gave him a couple stickers. I'm like, here, take this sticker, kid. You know, you could do it. And they drug him away.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really loud and dramatic, the whole thing. I thought it was kind of funny a little bit later on. But then he came back again. So, and it was, as I was telling you about that kid, and his parents were drugging him away, I turned around and they were just standing there looking at me. And I'm like, oh, let me give you a sticker too. But it was the way he said it. I need a gift. It's my birthday. Give me a gift. Here, bro. Take a sticker. Watch the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on all major platforms. Just click it and download.
But yeah, so we've done these events. We've met all sorts of interesting attendees as well as vendors and exhibitors.
Yeah. And it's funny because, the difference between a vendor and an exhibitor is not a whole lot. Vendor typically goes and sells things. An exhibitor typically goes and exhibits things and possibly sells things too. Usually
their book or their show.
Yeah. Book, show, old book, old show. I mean, who knows, right? Yeah. So you never know who you're going to see. But we have seen a couple of people repeatedly at some of these things, and we've gotten to know them a little bit, and we call them friends of the show.
Yes.
Yeah. And so let's talk about Carolina Paracon.
Because we talked about it in one of our previous podcasts, but we didn't really go too far into it.
Yeah. And we met some really cool people at Carolina Paracon. We met, of course, Toby and Tony from Afterlife Paranormal. We met Katie and Katie, right? Yeah. Stafford from the Ghost of Morgan City. And, excuse me, Katie, he does he's the paranormal mad scientist.
And he has the Facebook page. That's going to be Supernatural Inc. We'll put links to that in the show notes, as well as Toby and Tony Afterlife Paranormal.
Yeah, and while we were there, we actually sat beside Twisted Paranormal, which is actually a really well put together paranormal team.
Yeah.
They're on Amazon as well. They have their show called The Twisted Realm. Also met James Anito, demonologist, right?
Yes.
And on his business card has the St. Michael the Archangel's prayer to help protect you against demons. And you can recite this prayer if you think you need to.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And one of the things that happened while we were there is you made us a couple of super sweet bracelets and you took them to Mr. James and he blessed them to protect us against evil. Right?
Well, he blessed your bracelet and he blessed my Jimenez ring.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Jimenez ring is basically where we got the ring. It's in Jimenez, New Mexico, on the reservation. And he would also bless things for you. Like he would bless and make you holy water if you wanted, which I thought was like super cool. Yeah. Well, that's kind of neat. So, and he's a demonologist and he's versed in that sort of thing. And we've done a couple basically ghost investigations after that event where I've worn that bracelet and not had any weird feelings or seen anything or experienced anything.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it works. Which is weird because we've done the one place we've done multiple times where I always have an experience. I've gone and back and done it twice since then and experienced exactly nothing. To the point where the nice psychic lady that we talked to before is just like, I need to move away from you because I'm not getting anything at all because of that bracelet. So it works. So
and she picked up on cool. Bracelet, didn't she?
Yeah. She looked at it, pointed at it, and said, that's it right there. That's what's keeping people away. Because she calls them people.
Yeah.
So Twisted Paranormal, fantastic group. We met, of course, Toby and Tony from Afterlife Paranormal as well. Katie and Katie Stafford from Ghost of Morgan City. I didn't realize who he was, talking about fighting him in the parking lot over audio and EVPs, which is kind of a funny thing. Davina Rush was there. She's an author.
Yeah.
So we got to know her a little bit and talk to them. Really nice people. So these people that, show up to do these events, a lot of them are more than just the items that they sell. They're people that have, experience and knowledge behind their subject matter, and they're really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, we went and did Gatlinburg's, in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, we did Creatures, Legends, and Lore.
Yeah.
Where we talked to Mary Joyce again, and we've seen her quite a bit. She comes over and talks to us every time she sees us.
Yeah.
And she's got a new book called Bigfoot Beyond the Footprints. And she has a website, skyshipsovercashiers.com, where she basically talks about all the stuff. Yeah. Especially in our area, all the stuff like UFOs, underground bases, or mountain bases because they're up in the mountains, all this crazy stuff in our particular area.
She has a book about the Cherokee Little People.
Yep. And she's kind of based out of Sylvan, North Carolina. So she's very nice. Came over and talked to us. Seen her multiple times. Actually, we've seen her like 5 different events.
Yes.
So I think she thinks we live in our van. You know what I mean? Because she knows we have a big van and she knows that we travel and do investigations and take pictures and stuff like that and do interviews and put them up on our Instagram and our Facebook and everything. But I think she thinks we live in it.
That should be our tagline for season 4.
We don't live in a van.
We don't live in our van.
Yeah. Live in the dream, not in the van is basically what it boils down to. So she's awesome. And we've seen her a couple different times. And yeah. Skyships Overcash. She reports things. And if you want to read some crazy reports, you should go there and check it out. Yeah. And then we did the Georgia Bigfoot Conference, right?
Yeah.
Met some nice people there. So far, we've met Igor multiple times. And Igor was Igor Burtsev.
Yeah.
He is a premier Russian Sasquatch researcher. And he's written a couple books, and he's, angry Russian guy, but he's really not angry. He just comes across that way. Yeah. Which is kind of funny.
He's very matter of fact.
Yes. Anyway, and he's actually came over and he's bought some knickknacks and stuff like that to bring and send back home to his family in Russia. And there's a slight communication barrier there because he does have a Russian accent. But one of the things two things I remember about Mr. Igor. He has people his assistants that go around with him, and they lost him because he decided he wanted to go eat lunch and he just left. And they come over and because they knew he had been talking to us and because he'd seen us again, he came over and said hello. And they said, "Have you seen Igor?" I'm like, "Yeah, he went to go get some lunch." And I pointed out the door, and he's a full grown man, can do what he wants. They were running after him. They tried to figure out where he went. So I should say he's a little bit older. He's probably in his 70s, and he's a fiery, spry, older gentleman who takes no guff from anybody. And he said, "I'm going to eat lunch. See you later," pretty much. And they went to go get him. But
yeah.
Also, people were trying to tell stories during a presentation where he had a Q&A session, where people can talk and ask questions about Bigfoot or Sasquatchers, squats, anything like that. And he couldn't hear the people asking the question. Right. And rightfully so. There was no microphone in the audience, which didn't make sense to me, but that's okay. So Igor told everybody, "Shut up." He's on the microphone yelling, "Everybody shut up." So people can hear. And he was trying to say, help keep the noise down so that we could hear somebody's questions so that we could basically, give them their time so you can ask this question because, why not? They're there. They waited. They watched presentation, things like that. But the way it came across was, everybody shut up. You're being too loud. Shut up. And it's kind of like, it reminded me of like angry old man kind of thing. "Shut up. You guys are too loud," kind of a thing. Shut the door.
He also did that in Tennessee.
Yes, he did. He did it again. That's what I was getting to. We've seen him again in another event where he came up and talked to us and wanted to know how we were doing and everything was great. And he did it again. Except this time the conference was happening upstairs. He came downstairs and yelled at everybody and told everybody shut up. And then went back upstairs again.
Then he came down again downstairs to tell everybody to tell all the dogs and wolves to shut up.
Yes, because we're in the middle of a wildlife preserve and there's a wolf sanctuary there and all the wolves were howling. And he wanted somebody to go tell him to shut up.
Yes.
And he wasn't doing it to be mean. He wanted people that were there to ask questions to be able to be heard.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was just mad at everybody making noise. He said it was disrespectful to the other people that they couldn't be heard.
First thing in my head was, okay, me and Pepper will go walk over to the wolves and ask them to be quiet.
I thought it was funny.
It's just like...
So I was like, "You tell him, man. You tell him to shut up." He's like, "Yes." And we were walking away. So... but at Georgia, we also met the She Squatchers, which were very nice ladies, came over and chatted with us quite a bit and hung out. One of their daughters was drawing us little pictures.
Yes, we have.
Terrible story from one, but it was kind of funny. Something about, I don't remember how the story went. What was the story? She wrote a picture, made a story for you.
So one day there was a little girl who met a dog named Pepper. Pepper was dressed very fancy. Pepper murdered me. The end.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you do when you get a story like that? You're like, that's nice. Where's your mother at? Let me.
I'm sure she's processing a lot.
Yeah, no, because Pepper's our dog, and she went and she had a spiffy little shirt on, and she hung out with Pepper quite a bit, actually. So
yeah, actually, she hung out with Pepper the entire She Squatchers presentation, which
it's fine.
Pepper makes a very good babysitter. So
yeah, but no, they had a good time.
Yeah,
because she's loving on Pepper, giving her scratches and stuff, and of course Pepper's like, yes, that's right, give me more scratches. So. But no, it was pretty cool. She made us little pictures too, which we actually have on our refrigerator.
Yeah, as well as they're next to the drawing that Woodlings Lisa gave us. Yes,
because she's there. She does amazing. I don't want to say cartoons. She's an animator, man. Yeah. She draws animator / illustrator / artist. Does really good pictures of all sorts of stuff like fairies and woodlings, and has her own comic book. Really good looking stuff. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty nice to go there, and we actually talked to her quite a bit. We've seen her in multiple things as well. Kind of chatted up, and see, for us, it's becoming fun to go talk to people that we've seen multiple times, and also talk to the experts. We love talking to people that just come walking up and tell us some crazy stuff. We had a couple that we'd seen in 3 different places come up and talk to us at Paracon.
Yeah. About
Red Mountain Lights and everything else, and wanted to know how we were doing because they'd seen us at 3 different events, and we're like, hey, how are you doing? I don't think they want our name said on TVs or podcasts, but so we did the Tennessee Bigfoot conference, and that's when Igor came down the stairs and started yelling at everybody. But we were lucky enough to be sitting next to Cryptid Comforts.
Yes.
With Lisa and her sister.
Yes.
And they do these really cool. Well, Lisa does them. That's her thing, and her sister was there helping her. But Lisa creates these like
stuffies,
stuffed animals, stuffed creatures, if you will. What?
Plushies and stuffies.
Okay, that sounds inappropriate.
Would you stop?
But they're like stuffed animals. You know what I mean? Like you get like a stuffed teddy bear or whatever, but you can get like a stuffed Mothman, or Sasquatch, or Yeti, right?
Or Flatwoods Monster.
Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah.
The thing from Sacramento. This. What is it? Fresno crawler.
Yes.
Is it crawler or walker?
So it can be either. It's either the Fresno Nightcrawler or the Fresno Walker.
Yeah. So. Like that thing, which is creepy, Mongolian death worm.
Yes.
And she has like magnets and cool keychains, and she just does some really cool stuff.
I forgot to get a keychain. I should have got a keychain.
I told you to, but you didn't.
I know.
So, but yeah, she has some really cool stuff, and we actually picked up a nice Flatwoods Monster. Or it was for me, but Pepper claimed it.
And we got Pepper a Mothman, which
she could care less about. She likes the Flatwoods Monster. She likes to lay on it.
We had to pack it.
And you'll see that on our Instagram. We actually have a couple of pictures, but she does amazing things, and we actually have a link to everybody we're talking about in our show notes.
And Lisa has a store as well as a Facebook page.
Yeah. But if you want to see on Facebook, you can see some of the pictures, and it's just basically facebook.com/cryptid comforts.
Yeah.
So.
And I hear she's launching a Patreon. I hear. So. Yeah.
Are you? I already know this. Are you like?
I'm leading the listeners on.
At an hour and 20 minutes in, they're probably all asleep by now.
Would you hush?
Wake up. I was going to play the Howl, but I don't remember which one it is. Also had a chance to talk to Josh Morris from the Everything Paranormal Show. Talked to that cat for basically 2 days.
Yeah.
And I like his show, the Everything Paranormal Show. If you go to theeverythingparanormalshow.com, you can find all the links to some of the stuff he talks about. But he has a YouTube channel, and he basically does a live show, and I believe he does it every Thursday at 11. I might be wrong on that, but he likes to talk about everything paranormal, which is aptly named for the show. Interesting cat, has a lot of good subject matter, talks about, has a lot of good guests. And we chatted it up for a while. So like to talk to Josh, and I'll be reaching out to Josh in the future, of course, so we can do some different things. So after we left, the Tennessee Bigfoot conference, and then we left Georgia for the Bigfoot conference, and we left Gatlinburg. We went to Lebanon, Virginia for Phantom Fest.
Yes.
And we got there, and we didn't have any idea where we were going to sit or where our space was supposed to be. And we go cruising around trying to figure out where we're supposed to be. And there was 2 Twisted Paranormal going, hey guys, you're right next to us. We got a spot for it right over here. We're like, yay.
Yeah.
You know, because we'd seen them at Paracon and talked to them all day long. So we got all set up and we spent a good part of the day chatting with them. And they're on Amazon. You can watch their investigations. Twisted Realms free. It's Amazon Prime.
Props.
We're also on video. Was it?
No, it's something else.
Yeah. But I like the way they do their investigations. I like the effort they put into it. They look professional and put together and organized. And they're just good people to talk to.
Yeah.
It was great. And really enjoy hanging out with those guys.
Brandon got a necklace from me.
Very nice.
Yeah. But one thing I do, major props to them. They did Phantom Fest.
Yes.
And then later on that night, they did a whole nother event.
That's true.
All night. So, man, that's like rise and grind right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Doing the grind. You also had a chance to talk to Dave Spinks.
Yes.
And who does basically real supernatural, where he talks about all sorts of stuff. And wasn't he also about Flatwoods?
Yes, and I think he's in the movie.
Yep.
And
he's in the movie that was done with Seth Breedlove, that Seth Breedlove directed and did, right?
Yeah, and I was like, why is this guy so familiar? And then I, like halfway through the day, I was like, wait, I think I've seen him on History Channel or something like that. And then I got home and I was like, oh yeah, I've seen him on this and this and this.
Yeah.
But we linked to his author page on Amazon because he's just recently come out with a book, Willows Weep, The Beginning, and it's about a haunted property in Indiana that he has personal experience with.
Nice.
So that's on my wish list, everybody.
What does that mean? Your wish list? Like people are going to buy you a book?
Maybe.
No.
So
it's just socks for you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ran into him too and talked to him for quite a bit. And that was kind of nice because we went there, we met some people that, you know, it was nice to reconnect with Twisted, and it was nice to meet someone else who's interested in Flatwoods like we are.
Yeah.
So,
and, you know, it's funny because we were hanging out with Twisted Paranormal at Paracon, and we also had the opportunity to talk to Eric Mitchell for quite a while.
Yeah.
And not to gloss over Mr. Eric Mitchell at all, because we're not. We recorded to do the audio version of the podcast and did video to do a video version. And I said, you know, for the interview that we did with him. And he told us, don't be surprised if you have technical problems, because it happens a lot.
Yep.
And we're like, oh, no worries, man. We got a camera and an audio recorder going. It'll be fine. No. You could not hear this guy talk at all. And he talks plenty loud. I talked to him for hours.
And he zapped my card.
The memory card, battery drain, can't hear him. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so all that footage we got is, I mean, we have, the video looks great. You can't hear anything that he's saying.
Actually, the
and
video.
He's sitting like a foot away from you.
Yeah, the video actually goes in and out of focus, which is weird because I locked it.
Continually, yeah, it's manual.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a strange thing. So what he told us to be, you know, he told us with the expectation that you'll have problems is exactly what happened. Because our last podcast before this one, we were going to put up our interview with Mr. Eric Mitchell, and we could not do so because it just doesn't work. I'm like, wow, he was absolutely, yeah, I lost time. Like, I completely lost track of time talking.
Yeah. I actually ran 2 hours.
I was outside for like 20 minutes, and then they come. You're like, you've been gone for 2 hours. I'm like, that's not true.
Yeah. And during that 2 hours, I ran the booth, and I was nice enough to watch Katie and Katie's Stafford's booth for them while they did their whole presentation.
Yeah.
And you come bebopping in, and he's like, Eric had a hot dog. I'm like, you've been gone for 2 hours.
I'm like, no, I haven't. Because I should have got a hot dog if I was gone for 2 hours. I'm all about a hot dog.
No.
So, yeah, hot dog on a stick.
So, anyways.
So, anyway, we just figured we'd do a little bit of a recap of kind of what we've been up to. So, the reason why we've been gone is because we've been gone. We've been doing things. We've done events every weekend effectively since September. Continually. We've done 15 conferences this year alone.
I forgot Bigfoot.
Sure did.
Marion.
Yep, that makes 16.
Gosh.
So, tomorrow will be 17.
I'm so tired.
No, you're not.
I know.
So.
But we've only covered 4 events so far in this podcast episode?
Yeah.
That's
no, we're
over.
not going to cover everything. But what we are going to do for the upcoming podcast series is we took an amazing trip with terrible weather. And we're going to be talking about Flatwoods Monster. We're going to be talking about Mothman. And we're going to be talking about the Western Pennsylvania Conference of the Unexplained and some of the wonderful times we had there. And we're going to be talking about Kecksburg and the Kecksburg UFO incident.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about those in great agonizing detail in our upcoming episodes. So basically, season 4 starts off with a recap and leads into mini-series and parts of series. And what can you expect for upcoming in season 4? Lots of interviews with different people, lots of collaboration. The door is sort of opened up for us to take advantage of a lot of things. And we're also going to be talking about some events that were coming up.
Some new perspectives.
Including one that's going to be happening in Ohio.
Yeah.
With Small Town Monsters. It's going to be very, very nice. Go out there and see what's up in Ohio land.
Oh, and another East Coast event soon. Yeah.
Yep. So lots of things to talk about. It's going to be good. It should be fun. But you've been listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah. And if we didn't mention you this episode, don't get worried. We got a whole season of season 4 to talk about you.
Yes. And on our website, we're actually working on our paranormal directory. And we're going to start putting contact information in that paranormal directory.
Yes.
So, in other words, the people that we talk to in the region where they're from, we're going to put in that paranormal directory. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very nice. So.
Now, if you guys do want to reach out to us for anything we talked about this episode, or you have a show idea or a lead on something that we need to investigate, check out, what have you, that email to reach out to us, quickest way, contact@creepgeeks.com. Alternately, hit us up on our official Facebook page. I know we have a group, but our page is CreepGeeks Podcast. Just hit that little message us button and get in contact with one of us. Now, if you need to comment about the show or you have business inquiries, things like that, it's either omi@creepgeeks.com or greg@creepgeeks.com. We are on Instagram, and we are fairly active on Instagram. Instagram, it's going to be instagram.com creepgeeks, and that's creep_geeks. And then Twitter, it's creepgeekspod. So,
yes.
Yeah. So go ahead and let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you're excited about season 4. And say hi.
Yeah, because our season 4 is just basically us doing it for another season so far.
You know what? No.
But, no, things are changing. Things are different. We have a lot more interaction. We have a lot more contacts. We have a lot more people to talk to. We actually have interviews that are upcoming and set up. And it's all about a coordination thing. So, yeah. So we've basically been kind of diving down into the South. But we're going to be kind of expanding our reach, if you will, with some of those things. So, expect us to be going up north and probably out to the west a little bit.
Yeah.
Back down south. So it's fun. Yeah. Who knows? It'll be good. We got lots of traveling to do. And for those of you who listen who think we live in a van down by the river, not true. We have a bunker. We live in a bunker and we travel in a van. So, but yeah, if you attend any of these conferences, or if you want any information about conferences or upcoming conferences that we attend, just shoot us an email. Just ask us. We'll help you out. Yeah, give you some information, that kind of thing. Anyway, you're listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast, and this episode is Dunzo. Yep. I'm done. You got anything else?
No, that's
all
it.
right. See you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So